Hello and welcome back to my podcast. Today we're going to be talking about careers. Since it's that time of the year when students all over the world are about to finish school and they are considering careers. Now, the one thing that stands out wherever I go and speak at schools is that maybe 5% of students know exactly what they want to do. The rest are still confused. At this late stage in the year, many haven't even made the university applications as yet. So, as much as I would like to say it's a cause for concern, but it's something that repeats itself year after year after year for the past I don't know how many decades. And what happens with those who haven't decided is that in the last minute they'll make any decision, almost a coin toss, and then they'll just get into university and do whatever their friends are doing or whatever someone else asks them to do, which might or might not be making a lot of money. But I think with some careful consideration and a little bit of technique, anybody and everybody will be able to decide for themselves exactly what career choice they want to get into. And not just in matric, but well before they are in matric, they will be equipped with the skills to make the right career choice. And that's what we are talking about today. As you can see, I have my son Zax here with me, and this is a conversation that's close to his heart because it's a conversation that we've had repeatedly. When you were in high school, you were already very career focused. You already knew to an extent what you liked to do, and we had these conversations. And since then, you've made certain decisions, and now you are living those decisions. But you also have your own questions even up till now. So you've been out of school for what, 4 years now, 5 years?
Think slightly longer than that.
Yeah, and you've been in the business, and I think in the interactions we've been having with students at other schools, you are seeing almost a bit of yourself back then, and now you've kind of formulated your own thoughts around that. So
Yeah,
hit me.
I mean, when we do go to these visits and let them know the possibilities of what's out there, that they don't have to go through the conventional rigmarole with university. You bring the doctor example in quite a lot, because it takes so long to achieve that. Um, but yeah, back then when we left school, that was scary. That was intimidating, and to even suggest that to people these days, sure, it's becoming more normal, but it's almost unheard of, for majority of people. But you had such conviction even back then that this isn't the way to go. Even before we saw the true power of the internet, what gave you that foresight, that confidence?
So it wasn't just foresight. It was foresight as well as hindsight, because I took a look at the world and saw that over the couple of decades before I myself, found myself in a situation where I needed to make a career choice. And then fast forward to 2 decades after that, when you and your brothers now were in that situation, I
Right.
took a close look at the world. I looked at the people around me. I looked at my dad, your grandfather's situation, and I said, well, my father was a very, very successful businessman. He was very successful, but he dropped out of school in standard 8, grade 10, or
Right.
maybe even before that, right? He was just not cutting it in school. His brother was a whiz kid, and he was the opposite. And then he got into business, and he just thrived in business. He could take a dead business and bring it back to life. That was his
True. Yeah.
and there was no university training behind that. So that was my one my one sort of benchmark to say, well, is university really necessary? And then I looked at the markets, and I looked at where things were going, and I realized something, that even back then, that universities and this was my own dilemma, right? I always speak about it. It's on the iDiversity website, where university did not prepare me for the job that I wanted. I wanted to become a software developer. I've been coding since 10 years old. You know that, right? I told you that. Maybe even younger. I think since I was 8 or 9 years old, I've been coding,
Right.
and I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to get into a career in coding. So I went and did my degree in computer science. Only in the final year to realize that I wasn't getting a job, and I got caught up in that cycle, right?
Right.
Can't get a job because you don't have experience. Can't get experience
Just don't know.
because you don't have a job.
Yeah.
And I battled it out. For 3 years, I think I battled it out. I went to work as a teacher. I was doing web design for free. But it all paid off in the end, and because I did get my job. So based on that experience and the experience with my dad growing up, that's the advice I gave y'all. I knew that university is A, not the be all and end all, and B, not going to prepare you, because I never finished university, right? I never completed. I'm still a university dropout, because the moment I
Right.
got my first job as a Java developer, I dropped out. Didn't stop me from going and winning awards, didn't stop me from starting my own business and from training hundreds of software developers. It didn't.
And more importantly, it didn't stop you from learning.
I think I did a lot more learning out of university than I ever could have done in university. Look, I'm not undermining universities. People tend to get the wrong ideas. It's not that. I learned a lot of valuable things at university, but at that stage in my life, those weren't the things that I needed to learn to go and get that job. Because when I did get that job in Santon, they started training me up like a preschooler again. I knew nothing, just a bit of Java here and there. That's it. But I knew
Right.
nothing about the tools and the frameworks and the processes, the teamwork, communication, business. I knew nothing of that. So no knowledge is wasted. But sometimes, most of the times, when people go to university, they don't go for just learning. They go to find the skills to get a job. 99% of people,
Right.
I would say, are going in for that.
Naturally, they want to get employed. You mentioned that your passion is coding, right? And I can see that, but your day to day doesn't involve coding at all these days. I don't know when was the last time I saw you code. I mean, how realistic should people be when they say follow your passions? That how long is it going to be while you still are involved in your passion? Would you say you're still involved in, or is that evolved now into something completely different?
It did evolve. It did evolve into something completely different, because I enjoyed coding. I still enjoy coding. When I'm stressed out, I code to calm down. But I don't know when last, right? So look, there's two possible scenarios here. One is when I was in a coding job. Let's talk about that. I'm not in a
Right.
coding job now. Now I'm running a business, right?
Right.
This is completely different. As much as we teach people coding, I've got like a million other things to do. Let's say when I was in a coding job, how much of actual coding was I doing? Maybe half the time. Literally,
Okay.
half the time only, or maybe even less, was actual coding. What happened the rest of the time? Well, planning, meetings, reviews, um, a whole lot of other things, meeting up with clients.
Right.
My company would take the junior developers to sit with clients. So half my time, or even slightly more, would go into those things, those activities, and maybe about 40 to 50% would go into actual coding. And even then, when you're sitting in front of your computer, you are coding some, but you're also testing.
Right.
You're running tests, you're running diagnostics, you're compiling. So there's a lot of time that goes into that also.
So does that not demotivate you from saying I wanted a career in coding and now I'm doing all of this stuff?
I can't remember, but if it did demotivate me for a while, I think I quickly realized that this is what it's all about. There's no getting away from the fact that this is wherever I go. It wasn't the company that was imposing that on us. It was just that that's what a coder's life is.
Right.
And it applies to pretty much any and every profession. You might
Definitely.
love to do something, but you'll realize you're only doing that for 8% of time. You could love baking cupcakes, but the moment you start a cupcake business, you're doing 90% of other things and 10%
Right.
of baking cupcakes. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. So your your course, I think one of the main reasons we are speaking today was um, the GPT course, where can you explain it a little bit for me? How you go from somebody's passion into a career.
Right. Now, this is something that is close to my heart, right? We just met a youngster now, the meeting earlier.
Right.
So this guy is a phenomenally successful multi-millionaire business person. He's 22 years old. I'm going to have him on this podcast as I guess he's agreed to come in. But look at his story. He started a business, and he's not even that old. He's just 22. So how long could he have been doing it? 4 years, 5 years?
True.
But what he says, I'm already tired of it. This is not my calling. You see, there was a time in my father's time when you did what you were told to do. You did what you had to do.
Right.
Dress up, pack your sandwiches, go to work, do your work, come back. Today it's different. Today, you don't have to do what is handed out to you. Or let's go even further back. Let's go even further back when there wasn't modern technology, right? If your father was a blacksmith, you probably became a blacksmith. Like it or not, that was your lot in life. Your father
Yeah.
was a farmer, you took over the farm. That's how it went. People did what they had to do to survive. Today, there's two things. Number one, people are not like that anymore. People are wired differently. And secondly, the market is not like that anymore. You don't have to do what people, there's so many things that you can do. There's so much of fun you can have. So that's why I say, and that's why I told you at that time and your brothers, and I say this up till today, do what you are passionate about. Because through all the challenges and hardships of work, and work is tough, business is tough. Don't listen to that fake guru that's telling you it's easy and I did it like this and it was easy. It's not. It's tough. It has its moments when you are enjoying everything, but it's also generally it's tough. And what gets you across when you find that things are tough? What gets you across is your passion for what you do. That's what gets you up in the morning. That's what drives you. That's what gives you the great ideas. I mean, I love what I do. And I'm talking from example, right? So that's the first thing. And that's why I say to people, first things first. Find your passion, follow that passion, right? Don't start your career investigation with the university prospectus. Not even ours, not even IT Varsity's prospectus, because that's a small, tiny subset.
Right.
It's like trying to understand the world by looking through a keyhole, right? You're looking through that keyhole and you're trying to imagine what the world is like. Friend, it's not like that. The world is a massive place. There are careers that we never heard of, and if we start investigating every career today till we die, we'll never hear of everything. It's such a broad space, right? So start with yourself. Start inside. Understand, what do you want to do? What do you want to do in this world? How do you want to make the world a better place? Start there. Then you asked about the ChatGPT thing. Boy, oh boy, I wish that we had things like ChatGPT when I was a kid,
Yeah.
right? But we didn't. But today you can say, I am passionate about A, B, and C. What can I do? What career options are there for me, right? At one school, I spoke, the one kid said, I'm passionate about video games. Everybody laughed. But when I asked ChatGPT the question, I'm passionate about video games, what career options are there for me? Boy, oh boy, the options that came up were incredible.
I remember that.
20 different options,
Right.
right? This past week, I spoke at a school, well, this week, the school that we spoke at,
Right.
the South Coast, the one girl said, I'm passionate about design. Now, when you think about design, People think graphic design. But that, again, keyhole, that's all we know. But design is
Broad, yeah.
such a massive industry. So I encourage people, first find yourself, then get to know the career options in that passion, and finally now you start investigating that. Does it make sense? So I
Yeah.
built this course, and by the way, the course is freely available to you. Go to the IT Varsity website. On the top menu, you'll see there's a course there. It says using ChatGPT to find your perfect career, right? Do that course before you make a career decision. If you are in school right now and you are at a point where you need to make a career choice, go and watch those videos, go and do that course and do the practicals that I ask you to do, and you'll come out much more informed about who you are and what your career choice should be.
Right.
And even if you are not in matric right now, you're not in grade 12, you're just a person who's wondering, have I made the right choice here in life? Right? Go and do the course. You learn something about yourself, and you learn something about the world out there, and you learn something about artificial intelligence. Cool. Let's talk about your experience, right? I see you got a question here about storytelling, right? From the youngest days, you loved telling stories,
True.
right? And you had a number of options in front of you. How did that work out for you?
Well, it started, just with me writing stories.
These little comic books, funny comic stories. Yeah.
Comic books, that sort of thing. And then I suppose it just progressed to longer and longer stories from there until, I looked at it one day and we spoke. I didn't have ChatGPT that time. I had, still have you had ChatGPT, and we were speaking, and you had pointed me towards sales and marketing, and I totally resented that idea because it was such a sounding job, right? But now, having been in this field, when I started off, I realized it's nothing but telling stories. You crafting a narrative for somebody to see, and you build in that trust. You have to think about the brand as a character, and lay a story for your customer, and it's nothing else I'd rather do currently.
That's great. I mean, I saw that back then. I saw that you were a storyteller, and here were the options in front of you: become an author, become a comic book creator, uh, get into the movie industry, or get into sales. That time, our business was
Right.
just about starting.
I'd rather do that than be the starving artist,
Yeah, yeah.
It's you kill two birds with one stone. It's a fair compromise.
It is, but was it a compromise? Because now you are pivotal in doing sales in the business. You're telling the brand
Definitely.
story. So I think it's knowing. See, you started off. You were lucky in a sense. I think luckier than even your brothers, in a sense that you knew exactly who you were and what you were passionate about.
Right.
And I kind of guided you into one direction, which is not exclusive, right? It doesn't mean now you went for the lowest hanging fruit, which was marketing and sales, which is also storytelling. And I
Right.
needed that. I needed that kind of skill in the business.
Yeah.
But since then, you have been writing, right?
Definitely. I have the freedom to write now that I know my career is something that I love, that I enjoy. I have the energy to go home and still write.
Exactly. And no one human being loves to do just one thing.
Right.
Right. I mean, as much as I love coding, I love coffee, I love nature trails, I love travel. I mean, I love photography. There's so many gadgets. So, and you are the same. So that's the other thing, you might have a few things that are of interest to you. Pick the one you're going to pursue as a career,
Right.
and then pursue the others as a hobby.
Definitely.
Or you could do a combination. See, I love coding, but I also love teaching.
Right.
and now I'm a coding teacher. So there are a lot of careers that can combine. I mean, if you love coffee and you love photography and videography, there you go. You can become a coffee vlogger. You can start your own YouTube channel. I mean, they have phenomenally
Yeah.
successful coffee YouTube channels. So I'm glad you made the decision that you did, and
Likewise.
the business has been better since then. One more question. Let's go with one more question.
Okay, all right. Uh, okay, I'll pick the one that at this point I think I have the answer, but when people are considering entrepreneurship, now obviously your passion doesn't always have to include entrepreneurship, but a lot of the time you want to move out and do your own thing rather than working for somebody and all that. But the problem is there's no safety net. As an entrepreneur, there's no safety net.
So, what kind of safety net?
So, um, if I go to university and I study and I get employed, right? I have my skills, I have my CV, and I get the job closes down. I can always take my experience, take my CV, and start another job and virtually pick up where I left off. But as an entrepreneur, if you fail, you lose everything because it's you, it's your company, it's there's nobody you can jump ship to, you know.
So, okay, there's some major misconceptions in your question, right? I'll give you an example. This is from the book. Um, it's from a book by Nassim Talib. It's a famous book. It's eluding me. But anyways, I'll come back to that. Yeah, Anti-Fragile. His book is called Anti-Fragile.
Right.
So he gives an example of two brothers. One becomes a banker, one becomes a taxi driver, right?
Right.
The banker is making a lot more money than the taxi driver. Obviously, he wears expensive suits, goes to his office and works. And the taxi driver is, well, a taxi driver. But then suddenly, after a few years, there was a downturn in the economy, right? And banks started downsizing, and the banker brother lost his job.
Right.
Right. Now think about it. He lost his job. What percent of his income did he lose? His entire income.
Yeah.
He was wiped out. The taxi driver who was servicing the banking quarters took a serious knock also, because now there weren't so many people to move up and down
Right.
in that area. So he lost not his entire income. He lost about maybe 30 or 40% of his income.
Right.
What did he do? He started servicing another area, and he quickly made up that income. So he was a lot more resilient as a business person than his brother was as a
I see.
professional who was skilled in only one thing. He was skilled in banking and finance. Now, if there is a downturn and no banks are hiring, you make it sound easy that I'm going to take my CV and go and get something else.
Right.
Not if you only have one skill. You are going to battle it out. But the other guy, taxi driver, is an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs are like fishermen. Okay, this spot is not doing too well, or I'm not catching this type of fish. Let's try a different type of lure. Let's try a different area,
Right.
and we'll start again. Entrepreneurship itself is a safety net. Then there's the whole misconception about what tantamounts to failure in business. I don't even want to start that conversation because we are definitely out of time.
Right. So there's an illusion that and I see this with most people that we talk to, that entrepreneurship is the more risky way to go. You're saying that's flat out untrue for the most part.
It's untrue. It's definitely untrue. It seems in our heads that getting a job is the safer thing to do. You're going to get a fixed salary every month. But remember, your salary depends on your boss. Your raise depends on your boss. If that person wants to favor his nephew down the line there, he's going to favor the nephew. You can do nothing about it.
Right.
Entrepreneurship, what makes it scary is that you're plotting your own course. And that's the part that people don't like, because your whole life, through that rotten schooling system, and I say it's rotten, quote me on that, you've been told, period 1, 8 to 8:30, do this, study
Right.
this. So you've got it So you got your path charted to you. Come towards the end of the term, you're getting revision exercises where the teachers
Right.
are basically giving you everything. You go and you close your eyes, you write one exam, you regurgitate what you know, you delete it, then
Right.
you are not taught to chart your own path, and that's what makes entrepreneurship sound scary. Cool. You're
Cool.
happy now.
Happy.
Right. So I'm glad that my sons went into entrepreneurship. All three of them. They're all business people, and up till today, you can see, you can sense that there is sometimes there is a bit of doubt. There's a bit of wondering what is life like on the other side, because none of them actually went to work for any companies. Sometimes it might sound glorified, it might sound great because there's none of the stress, but trust me, there's stress there at work, except that it's someone else's stress that you are taking on, and the stress in entrepreneurship, except that it's your stress. Remember something, you cannot leave your job to your children. They cannot inherit your job, but they can inherit your business. So it's it, for me, entrepreneurship is the only way, and I'm glad that they went that way. And I seriously hope that you will consider entrepreneurship also. And remember, if you are in a metric, or if you are a person who's thinking about what career to get into, do my course. Go to the IT Varsity website, www.itvarsity.org. You'll see on the top menu there, there's short courses. Pick this one. It says how to use ChatGPT to find your perfect career, and do that course. I promise you, it'll serve you well.